We're finally kicking off Fourth and Favre with the man himself, NFL Hall of Famer and legend Brett Favre. Well, why do you think you still have such a big fan base, Brett, after being retired for 15 years?
Um, well, I don't know how. I really don't pay much attention to it, but if you say I got a big fan base, then I'll believe it. But I don't know. I think more than anything, playing with the Packers, the web of the fan base is just enormous, and um, everywhere I go, I encounter Packer fans. I think that probably more than anything, they're probably the most loyal and faithful fans anywhere. So I'm gonna assume that that's probably more than anything why I'm still somewhat current, if you want to call it that.
I mean, you also have a huge Viking congregant that love you too. They wish you had played for them your whole tenure.
It goes without saying how much that rivalry means to both sides into the game of football. So I think, sort of along the same lines as the Packer faithful, to be the enemy for so long and then join them uh, will remain fresh in a lot of people's mind for a long time. So I think those those two teams is what most people will remember me by. Obviously, the Packers would be number one for obvious reasons, but much like what Aaron Rodgers is doing, he's making his niche. It's a small niche, but it is with another team. I mean, we'll always remember Aaron as a Packer, but it remains to be seen what happens with Aaron. But he could be, a huge presence in the Steeler folklore if he can lead them to the Super Bowl.
When you played the Packers for the first time, what was going on in your head?
When you have given so much to a franchise for so long, like Aaron has, and I did, both with the Packers, to go play elsewhere is, in some people's mind, taboo. But, in today's game, that's not uncommon to play for a team for a long time and then just go play somewhere else. We see a lot in college as well, but there's no question that Aaron is the ultimate competitor. Whether you like him or not, whether you pull for him or not, he's the ultimate competitor. And that being said, much like myself or Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, guys that have done it, where you go play somewhere else, you want to show your old team you still have a little juice in the tank. Now, everyone's breakup, if you want to call it that, from their team is different. Some were friendly. I think, like with Peyton, that it was a collective, effort to let him go, and everybody said the right things. When I left, on the other hand, it wasn't the cleanest of breakups. So that made my want to prove to them that I could still play even greater. Aaron's departure from the Packers was not as heated, if you want to call it that. But make no mistake, he's going to want the juices. The best way I can say or explain those two games, playing the Packers in the Metrodome and then going to Lambeau and playing for the first time as an opponent, it was as close to, and I'd played in the Super Bowl, actually played in two. It was as close to that atmosphere as you could possibly get. And it was a regular season game, which is almost unheard of. But that's the way it felt to me. Both games.
One of the things I've heard that Aaron picked up from you is when he takes off his chin strap, you would always snap it on the same side and then you would pull it. And that was one of the things. Were there other things that you've seen Aaron kind of embody from you?
I think obviously he's his own. He has this kind of special way of playing the game. I think one thing that sets Aaron apart that I noticed right from the get-go was his football IQ was off the charts. Guy was super intelligent and was much like a Tom Brady, was one step ahead always in regards to his opponent in defenses. But then you throw in his athletic ability, his arm strength and quick release were as good as anybody in history. But I think the things that I see that maybe he would have gotten from me is the footwork. I very rarely did I do a traditional, like a pitcher, come off the mound, you plant with your left foot, bring your right side in. I was, on the other hand, I was more of a feet off the ground type of guy, and now mine was not a taught or a learned what style of playing. It was just the way I threw. But Aaron, I see a lot of times that he throws from all these awkward positions like I did. But you got to have the arm strength and the torque to do it. And I'm gonna say that he got that from me. He may say different, but it is what it is.
Well, right before we got on, I heard the news of Nick Mangold passing, and I'd heard that he was looking for a donor maybe a week ago, but he passed Sunday, or that's what I heard. But what are your immediate thoughts on Nick Mangold passing? And you played with him for a year with the Jets. Do you have any Nick Mangold stories?
Well, I'll be honest with you, David. I honestly felt like I got kicked in the stomach by the most ferocious horse out there, and I mean it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Nick and I, we only played together a year. We had a great relationship, as you probably are well aware of. The catcher and pitcher relationship is much like the quarterback and the center relationship. You have a special relationship, and you have to. And even though I was only with the Jets for a year, I left with a lot of friends behind, and Nick would be one of them. And just a super guy, great family guy, 4 kids, wonderful wife, so young, 41 is so young. And I had saw maybe the same thing you had seen, David, where he made a public plea for a kidney. No one in his family was a match. And so I was optimistic because I'd read that several days ago. So I was optimistic that someone would come forward with a match and he would be fine. But that's not the case. Just I feel for his family, Jets Nation, just a first-class guy, a great player, unbelievable father and husband. Just a tragic bit of news today.
It just kind of shows how short life really is when people put in perspective. I mean, when I was 17, I thought I was going to live forever. And then you're like, wait, there's an end to this.
Yeah. The reality that we're all going to die is true. But when someone leaves us so young and early in their life, and, in my case, I'm 56, and I have to admit, not that I'm shifting gears totally, but my dad passed away at 56. And I'm 56 now, and I don't feel that old. I mean, I do, but I don't. And it's just, much like the news of Nick being a big blow to my stomach, the reality is we are all going to die. And, times like this where Nick's passing is big news. It just really puts things in perspective. I mean, we're talking about football, and we're talking about UFC, and we're talking about college football and life in general, just the ins and outs of daily life. When, I heard, actually, you sent me a message that Nick had passed away. I mean, the air went completely out of my cells. I mean, just a huge blow, just a reality check more than anything.
And it's interesting you say the relationship between a quarterback and a center. I mean, I played up to a community college level, but from high school all the way through, you're constantly having to have that relationship to make sure. Like, I don't think people understand the intricacies of someone hiking the ball. If you get a bad center, I've had my fingers jammed up when you have a replacement come in. It's like, dude, what are you doing? and
Yeah.
so you have to be on the same page. So was there any stories that you had with him that you could share?
What I will say is, and it is in line with the relationship that you have with your center, much like I said, a pitcher and a catcher. You know, someone unfamiliar with the ins and outs of football may say, well, what is so special about that relationship other than the fact that he hikes the ball either directly to you or shotgun? You have to be, the center is the closest thing to the quarterback uh, that you will find. Now, that probably sounds odd, but the offensive line is led by the center. In other words, he directs the line where they got to block. The only thing that trumps that is the quarterback can say, no, we're going to go this way or we're going to go that way. But oftentimes the center is usually right because the center generally is a pretty sharp dude, and Nick was. And so you're usually on the same page, but you have to be in sync on the calls, you know, prior to the start of the game. You have to be up to speed on what they do defensively, how that affects our offense, how is our pass. For example, Liz was a call. Liz meant left. Rip meant right. But then you could make a base call. Base call meant nobody, we're not sliding left, we're not sliding right. We're blocking the guy right across from us. If you're uncovered, you block the backer or whoever that is filling that gap. And that's just a small example, but you have to be on the, if he says rip and you're thinking Liz, you got big problems if they blitz in a certain place and you're not up to speed on where the hot is. You're thinking it's one way, he's thinking it's another. So you have to be on the same page. So you spend a lot of time together getting that continuity and consistency and chemistry because it's vital between the two. Not so much with the other linemen, but with your center, it's vital.
I don't think fans have a big idea of how much there's intellectual acumen in football because it's like chess, right? I mean, if they're blitzing, you're calling fire, and then maybe the defense makes an audible and they come out of it. And so there's like this dance going on, but the fans just see hike and go and tackle.
Yeah, there's a lot. You know, most people relate football to brains, not so much brains, but brawn and just raw physicality. And I think that there's a certain level of that in today's game, maybe not as much as used to, but the intellectual part of the game is probably much greater than most people would think. There's so many calls. There's so much of a chess match that is played in every game. And you know, an important element to it, which makes it even tougher, is the play clock. So you don't have all day to make a call or change a call. You know, when the play's over, the play clock starts again. So by the time you get, you know, yourself back into the huddle and calling a play, I mean, you're less than 30 seconds. So you have to be definitely on top of your game intellectually. And a lot of times, like when we would play the Bears and Urlacher and Lance Briggs, and their, you know, super defense, we would go against them, and it was like they knew what we were doing, we knew what they were doing, and so it was a matter of who could hold on till the last second. In other words, they would show something, and I would think that looks like they're going to come with a weak safety blitz, but I'm thinking that they want me to think that, you know. So it was that level of thinking, but at some point you got to pull the trigger. You got to roll with it. And that being said, if you're wrong, which it happens, then you have to make the most of it. Throw it hot, throw it away, scramble, whatever needs to be done. And the same can be said for them. So, you know, little ins and outs of things that you don't recognize that you do, that maybe they do. Like, you know, and I'm just throwing this out as an example, if I had a tendency to rub, like Donald Driver, for example, when he was our slot receiver, great player for several years, and I never noticed it. Someone actually told me about it. When Donald was in the slot and we were lining up for a play, if it was a pass play, he would take and pull on his gloves. And like, it was like, it was more of a habit. He'd pull on his gloves, tighten them, pull on them, tighten them. If it was a run, he wouldn't. Now, you're looking for that all the time. At least I was looking for something that will give me, some tip. And oftentimes you're the last to recognize your own tips that you're giving away. So, when you talk about the ins and outs of the game and the calls and the mental aspect of it, that's a big part of it. Like finding, one player that will signal to you what the rest of the defense is doing. And oftentimes it was a young guy who would do it exactly like he's coached and wouldn't deviate. But it was always a chess match. That's the part of it I don't think people see or would even think is a big part of the game.
Well, since we're on that topic, it's almost midway through the NFL season. We have the Patriots in first, Pittsburgh, and then from the NFC, obviously the Packers are doing well. The Bucks, Eagles. So just give me some hot takes of what are 4 teams you see getting to the playoffs for sure.
Well, let's start with the NFC. I think there's 4 teams that really stand out to me, and I'm not saying that other teams. There are a lot of teams on the on the verge of possibly being in the playoffs, and people can argue. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just that come to mind: the Buccaneers, the Packers, Detroit, and Philadelphia. Now, you could easily say the Rams, maybe the 49ers. I mean, they've been beat up some. The Cowboys are not out of it, surprisingly. But those 4, to me, one of those 4 will represent the NFC. I think when you look at the AFC, it's a little more. Obviously, Kansas City is going to be there. Whether or not we assume Buffalo will be there, but, at the halfway point, New England has actually passed them up as the leader. I think there's a little more parity in the AFC. Baltimore doesn't look like they're going to do it this year, but Pittsburgh looks good. The Chargers give you, flashes of what they can do, but I think Denver is a team that could sneak in there as well. Is opportunistic and well coached. So I mean,
is it weird?
Who will represent either team, either conference? Who knows? But I think.
Are you surprised though with Kansas City? I mean, they had a losing record, and then out of nowhere they just start firing off wins. And Buffalo was undefeated, and then here we are.
No, I'm not surprised. I mean, think about it. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. Their coaching staff is still there. Andy Reid is the best out there. Patrick Mahomes, maybe his numbers are not what we've grown accustomed to, but you can't use that as a reason to not put. I mean, they're going to be there, whether or not it's the Super Bowl or they're going to be in contention for it, and they're going to be in contention for it until Mahomes or Andy leaves. So, I mean, I hate to break that to non-Chief fans, but that's just the way it is.
There's a viral clip that's been going around for years with Coach Reid and you on the sideline. There was a wrong read, and Holmgren was yelling, and Coach Reid went up to Holmgren and said it was his fault. And you kind of laugh. Do you remember that?
Yeah, there was many more episodes. You just happen to see one. My first coach there was Mooch, Steve Mariucci, and then when Steve left to go to Cal as the head coach, Andy became the quarterback coach. Both of them took a lot of heat from me, and I'm forever grateful to them. But yeah, I remember that as if it were yesterday. But I again, there was many moments like that. I mean, it was sort of a carousel of what is Brett going to do today, and I'm going to have to take the brunt of it for him. So yeah,
we will have a World Series champion. It's 1-1 as we talk, but when we record this next Sunday, who do you think it is, LA or Toronto? And I mean, it's going to at least Game 6. Because it's tied 1-1. What do you see happening?
Well, I was a Dodger fan from as far back as I can remember, and even though I'm not so much a fan anymore, and I'm not saying a Dodger fan, just I don't watch a lot of baseball, I'll be honest with you, I usually wait till the playoffs or the World Series. But I was probably more shocked of the opening game, how the Blue Jays played and dominated. Obviously, the Dodgers have evened it up, but I'm going to go with my gut and say the Dodgers are going to pull it out. And Ohtani is, mark it down. We're watching someone that in our lifetime, we won't see anything like that again. The guy's an incredible talent. I mean, he pitches unbelievably well, but he hits even better. And just a dominant player. So now that's one guy, but my gut tells me they're going to win it all.
I've never saw Babe Ruth play. I mean, I don't even think you were around Babe,
No.
Babe Ruth, but it's just that seems like he's that guy that, and I don't understand it. He's not American or Latin, right? He's from Japan. And you wouldn't think that one of the greatest would be someone outside of these two spheres.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I actually was thinking about Babe Ruth the other day, and you're right. I only know him from clips and folklore. But I don't think Babe Ruth can hold a candle to what Ohtani. You throw in what he is able to do and how well he is able to do it. I mean, the guy throws 100 miles per hour. He hits 500-foot bombs like it's nothing. He steals bases. It's like, what can you not do? So we should consider ourselves lucky that we were able to watch him in real time.
College football, the rankings are out, and just give me some hot takes on Arch Manning. You saw the concussion in Texas in the game, and at first I thought it was his knee. Obviously, they end up winning in overtime. But, I mean, you played against the Mannings multiple times, and here's Arch coming up, and no one knows what he's going to do. But then, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think he can definitely can play. I think the game that you're referring to, they played Mississippi State. When people see this, that would be a distant past. But they were lucky, very fortunate to win that game. But I thought Arch played exceptionally well in the second half. He obviously he wasn't in for the last touchdown pass, but he made some terrific plays in that second half to get him, in contention. There's been a lot of focus, on Arch. That's just the way it goes. A lot of expectations. He didn't live up to them at first, but I think he's sort of, finding his way. The concussion obviously is I would say a minor setback, but he'll be fine. He's very capable. He's way more athletic than Peyton and Eli. I mean, he can move and run like his grandfather. Archie he could razzle and dazzle you with his scrambling. Arch is really a lot like that. So I think the future's bright for him.
We have Ohio State #1, Indiana's 2. A&M just blew LSU out the water. Well, what do you see happening next? Do we see any changes? I mean, Oregon's right there at 6, Georgia at 5. Lane Kiffin has Ole Miss at 8. Where do we see the shifting?
Who knows? There's been a lot of jockeying around. The two consistencies, I would say, or I never thought I'd say this, but Indiana and Ohio State. And let me take that a little further. Georgia Tech has dominated. I think they're 8-0 as we record this. And a good 8-0, not a lucky 8-0, a good 8-0. But I think, I'm most curious about Indiana. I never really get to see them play. So a lot of people probably feel the same way, but I know I've seen some highlights. They're good. Can they play with Ohio State? We'll see at some point. But the SEC is really, to me, is more in recent years. There was more of a dominant team that kind of emerged. I don't really see that team right now. I mean, it could be Georgia, could be Ole Miss. I thought it was LSU, but maybe it's A&M now. Tennessee has slipped in there a little bit. I really don't know. And it's sort of good. Like what's going to happen? There's not the dominant team that, Alabama, after the first loss to Florida State, I think everyone wrote them off, but maybe they slip back in there like they have in years past. But there's a lot of unknowns this year.
Yeah, I really thought that UCLA would give a better showing against Indiana than they did, and it was over, I think, within the first quarter.
I think the way it appears to me, it was over before they kicked off.
Yeah, I saw the energy. I was kind of reading it. I'm like,
You know,
it seemed like Indiana was prepared for whatever UCLA had. UFC, the baddest man on the planet is yet to be known. Tom Aspinall kept his title because of the double eye poke by Cyril Gane. I know a bunch of UFC guys love you. I think one of the things they say is they like you, like Randy Couture, Dan Henderson, say you played with this grit, and that's another reason why I think you have this fan base. But the baddest man, Dana White says immediate rematch. Obviously, John Jones is retired. What do you think about the eye poke?
I think it happens. I certainly don't think Gane meant to do it. I mean, it happens, and it's unfortunate. But like Dana said, we'll have a rematch and we'll do it as quickly as possible. But for Dana, anyone else, including myself, to say he should have kept fighting. It's easy for us to say from the cheap seats. When someone's trying to kick your ass and you got blurred vision, you may want to regroup and wait till you got clear vision. It's hard enough with two good eyes, better yet, two poked eyes. So it sucks for the people who rented them, the fight, but there'll be a rematch and it'll be fine. I love watching UFC. It happens. That's the only thing I can say.
I think I know the answer to this, but I think if Brett Favre was a UFC heavyweight champion and Brett Favre would have got eyes poked, the guy from the gridiron would have kept fighting. What do you think? I mean, you played under all circumstances.
Yeah, and maybe I should have lived to fight another day at times. But it is what it is. Maybe I would have fought when everyone thought I wouldn't or shouldn't. Maybe I would have succeeded. But I think that's a totally different animal, UFC, than any sport, we're able to watch. You don't have golf clubs that you can blame it on. You don't have 10 other teammates that you can blame it on. You can't blame it on the wind or the conditions. It's you and the guy across from you. And you give your best, he gives his best. And I think that's what makes UFC so, your opponent's coming to kick your ass. I don't know how else to say it. And it's your job to not let him do that. And it's a battle of wills. And there is some, I'm sure there's probably some intelligence that plays a factor too, knowing when to shoot your shot. But I love the give and take of watching the UFC fight.
Hail Mary question, Brett. If you could be any superhero, who would it be and why?
Well, boy, I don't know. I would have to say Superman. And the only reason I can think of is it'd be pretty cool to fly. Wherever you want to go, you just, boom, take off and go. So Superman would be nice. I think I could live forever as Superman.
Even Superman had kryptonite.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week, Brett.
All right, David. Enjoyed it.